the US Shark Tank team.
I saw Barbara's
Kevin
video.
O'Leary
Kevin O'Leary.
and yeah, all of these people, their teams use our product.
Gonna be Badshah of media tech.
Entrepreneurship, at every point of time, you're trying to minimize your chances of failure or maximize your chances of success, because at the end of it, nobody can guarantee that your company or the product you're building is going to be a complete success.
You feel like a disruptor?
I don't feel like a disruptor yet. I think the disruption is yet to happen.
Crazy innovation happening there. I think you're using AI in a phenomenal way.
That's the special part, I would say. I tried to be a content creator. I started a YouTube channel. I grew to about 16,000 subscribers in total. And then this happened. Indian content creators are just not able to earn enough.
I mean, I can talk, I can make people talk, but when it came to the actual groundwork, it's a lot of work.
This is going to explode in a way that nobody saw coming. There is going to be a point in the near future, in the next 12 months, where your dad or my dad, if they want to create content, they can just record their videos and start putting content on it, because the entire work of editing or optimizing for social media or thinking what to create next will all be done by the AI. For example, if you're applying for jobs today, most likely the person is going to first go and check out your LinkedIn. And if you've got content out there, it just sells you better. And is the risk that comes with letting the algorithm do too much. But ultimately, the algorithm is the king and you've got to make peace with it. Paid ads is like Coke, because it gives you a really good high and you'll see this insane growth. But the moment you stop putting that money in, so it's just, Indians don't pay for software. The sign up to paid in the US is 160 times higher than it is in India. Server of the software was Kushagra's computer, which means that if Kushagra's computer is off or it's running on a battery, the product is down. We said no to a tier A investor, one of the best in the world. In the world, I say that. They gave us an offer and we said no. It was a $4 million check. Hit $1.5 million in ARR. We did not run any ads. Like, we absolutely did zero spends in ads. There were influencers talking about us. There were podcasts talking about us. HubSpot is talking about us. The biggest digital marketing podcasts in the world are talking about us. And people just came organically, experienced the product, took out their credit card.
That's crazy.
And that's really how we grew to about $1.5 million in ARR in the first 12 months itself. I didn't have any money in my bank and I didn't have a job. And obviously I had my kharche. Cheese jo mind mein tha was that ki yaar 1 million to kar hi lete hai. Like, it sounds like a good number. We took our team to one of the best offsites that I have ever heard of, to Thailand, when we hit $1 million in ARR. So the entire team flew to Thailand and we had a blast for 4 days. And we are hoping to do that as we hit a more substantial revenue milestone. Few things that you need to keep in mind if you want to become a successful entrepreneur. You have to have the balls to take risks, and you have to be okay with that risk going to shit. So you have to be okay with the fact that everything that you worked for the last few years can tomorrow just turn to dust and it's nothing, and you have to be willing to start over again.
Hello, Vedant.
Hey Kaustubh, how are you?
Been a long time.
It's been a long time.
My team tells me to call you the gonna be Badshah of media tech. You
Okay.
feel like a disruptor?
I don't feel like a disruptor yet. I think the disruption is yet to happen, but I think we're starting to get there. We're starting to see signs of really bringing about some kind of change, some kind of meaningful change in the lives of our users, our consumers. So yeah, at the start of something big for sure.
All right. But what's so special about Video, if I ask?
I wouldn't say that there's anything special about what we're doing. What we're just trying to do is learn from the industry and learn from our past experiences and just build that out as good solutions for people. Like, it's the ultimate building what people want. That's what you're trying to do. And the good part is that we've gotten some strong momentum and love from users, which has helped us grow and scale to the level that we are. There's still a long way to go in terms of where we want to go, what we want to achieve. But it's good to have some validation as a founder when you're working day and night on building something people want, and then people come back to you and say, okay, yeah, this works. This is really good for me. And this saved us so much time, or this saved us so much effort, or we can't live without using this product. That's definitely, that's the special part, I would say.
I checked out Video a lot of times, and every time I open it, I see some new feature. I've been following it for almost a year right now. Crazy innovation happening there. I think you're using AI in a phenomenal way. But why did you specifically choose this industry to start off with when you were having those entrepreneur uh, that entire mindset that you were carrying on?
I think entrepreneurship, at every point of time, you're trying to minimize your chances of failure or maximize your chances of success, because at the end of it, nobody can guarantee that your company or the product you're building is going to be a complete success. My background is in the social media and content creation and video production and video strategy space. That's where I spent 6 years of my career before starting the company. So I felt that I was most strongly equipped to build something in this space, not only because I have had experience in this space, but I also understand the day-to-day problems that a social media team or a content creation team or a video team might be facing. And using technology to solve those problems will be wonderful for hundreds of thousands of people across the world. And that was really the thought process behind it. It was a space that I understood. It is definitely a space that excites me, and I feel there's a lot of hard work involved in building something like this. Anybody can build CRUD dashboards, and it can deliver value. But what we are building is actually on the difficult end of the tech spectrum as well, and that adds another challenge, which makes it all the more exciting.
I think face value pay, even like when I was not recording content, even I felt like, okay, this is not that difficult. I mean, I can talk, I can make people talk, but when it came to the actual groundwork, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And even more for me, it comes to the part of the work of my editors, and that
Absolutely.
requires a lot of work. So you saw an opportunity over there.
Yes, absolutely. There was a clear white space in terms of the workflow of going from an idea to the final content that's going online, and then the feedback loop that comes after that, which is if I posted 100 videos, which one of them did well and why. And that this typical cycle is a team of 3 to 4 people at any given place doing it. And there's a lot of opportunity, especially with the advent of AI and LLMs, to automate most of this work. And that's the opportunity that we saw. Like even if you talk to video editors, there'll be very few people who actually love editing videos, because most of video editing is just a lot of manual work.
Right.
To remove that manual work and to be able to bring value to the time that you're spending on software was very, very important. And that's why we saw this white space and we decided to sort of go after it head on.
So do you consider yourself to be a content creator?
I tried to be a content creator. I started a YouTube channel. I grew to about 16,000 subscribers in total. And then this happened, and I was not able to really dedicate the kind of, again, time and effort it is required to grow on social media and produce content regularly. But now I see it as almost one of the responsibilities I have leading the team over here, because if I'm not getting my hands dirty with social media and content creation, then I cannot build a platform that is doing the same thing for hundreds of thousands of people across the world. So now I consider myself a content creator just by my job description as well, and that's something that I have to continue to do, so that I understand the nitty-gritties of creation, as well as I understand how platforms are doing content and what their general disposition is towards content, and how difficult it is to grow. Because the moment I am able to resonate with that problem, my solution just becomes much, much, much better, because I'm able to solve that same problem for myself and for again, thousands of people are using the software.
16,000 subscribers, but in a personal channel. What is it about, your channel?
My channel is about, so I started off with personal finance, and then I went on to habits for life, and then I made a couple of travel videos. So it's pretty much all over the place.
All right. And also maybe I think you might have been facing those challenges
Absolutely.
of editing and everything.
100%, yes.
All right. Let's talk about the content creation space specifically. AI has changed the content creation space itself.
Yeah.
If I talk about not just the editing part, but the recording part, how much do you think it has already impacted, and what do you see ahead?
It's impacted people all over the world, and I think the creative production side of things has been most impacted by Gen AI in the last few months, because creative work, whether it is at the ideation or the editing or the social media management, was largely manual for all people. And now with AI and with agentic workflows, you're able to automate a lot of those things. But I also feel that this is only the beginning. This is going to explode in a way that nobody saw coming. There is going to be a point in the near future, in the next 12 months, where your dad or my dad, if they want to create content, they can just record their videos and start putting content online, because the entire work of editing or optimizing for social media or thinking what to create next will all be done by the AI. So it's essentially like an assistant sitting on your phone and telling you, okay, this is the content that you should be creating next. Here's the script for it. Why don't you hit record and do it? And even taking it a step further, you'll have AI avatars of me and you who could be recording this podcast in a couple of years. That's really at the pace at which we are headed. There has been no better time to start creating, not just for your business or for your company, but also for your personal brand. And no matter what it is out there, like for example, if you're applying for jobs today, most likely the person is going to first go and check out your LinkedIn. And if you've got content out there, it just sells you better, right? So it is just going to become inevitable as a part of all knowledge workers and their work, but also people beyond that, people who are running their businesses, people who are running consultancies, professionals. Online content is going to become an all-encompassing sort of thing for people globally.
But I think also since the ease of creating content is increasing, it'll be more and more difficult for people to identify relevant content. Or do you think the social media algorithms will
The algorithms
do
will do their job. Like you've got Zuck and you've got Elon and all of these people who have these massive teams who are just working on what is going to get you hooked and what's going to make you stay. The other part is, which is the TikTokification of social media, which is they keep showing you more and more stuff that is more and more relevant only for you. So you start to go down that rabbit hole of content. Is the risk that comes with letting the algorithm do too much. But ultimately, the algorithm is the king and you've got to make peace with it, I'd say.
All right. India versus abroad, if we look at content creators, do you see a stark difference between their strategies, mindsets, or the general social ecosystem of how content is absorbed? Do you see any difference? Because I think you have clients all across the globe.
There's a huge difference in between Indian content creators and creators outside India. Let's start with the basics. Indian content creators are just not able to earn enough. It's really, the CPM is too low for them to do anything meaningful when it comes to making money. Ultimately, if you start off as a content creator, the goal is for you to be able to make enough money to sustain yourself, right? Unfortunately, just through ad revenue, it doesn't come. So you've got to look at brands, partnerships, etc., which is also a slippery slope. It's not as straightforward as it is, as compared to your foreign counterparts, where you end up making just enough money through ad revenue. And that becomes one of your primary sources of income. So you're basically ramen profitable just from ad revenue, and then the brands and the sponsorships and the partnerships are a plus. So that's definitely number one. The other difference is the cost arbitrage and the cheaper cost of labor in India as compared to people outside.
Right.
So when you're looking at creators or businesses who are creating content outside, it's very difficult for them to hire an editor or a social media manager to do work for them because it's just labor is much more expensive. In India, for 5,000 rupees a month, you can get a video editor to work for you. And at the same time, for 10,000-15,000 rupees a month, you can get this entire team of interns doing your social media. So it's just much easier to do it. And that is why technology penetration is lower, because then in your mind, you're thinking, if I'm paying $30 a month for
getting
this
it cheap.
software, I will just get a person to sit on a computer and do it for me, because the cost difference is just that less. So I think those are the two biggest differences when it comes to content creators in India and outside.
All right. I think if I look around 10 years back, when the entire ad saga had become a trend, I think 15 years back it started with Google dominating that. Then video content mein YouTube aa gaya tha.
Yeah.
But do you think the reliance on ads is diminishing? Are people more and more focusing towards brand endorsements and partnerships versus ad revenue?
Yeah, it's difficult to say. It really depends on the industry. But I think one of the trends that I've noticed is that people have started understanding that just growing on ads and ads and ads only is going to become unsustainable at one point or time or the other. Because eventually every month, it's like, and I tell this to my team as well, paid ads is like Coke. Because it gives you a really good high and you'll see this insane growth. But the moment you stop putting that money in, it'll go back down to zero. And the other part is that the cost of ads will only increase with time, because the CPM will only increase with time, no matter what market you're talking about. So ultimately, ads is a good lever to get started, to test the waters, do all of these things. But increasingly, brands are investing in organic content, endorsements, partnerships, everything that builds trust, because it's very easy to get results with ads, but it's very difficult to build trust with ads. And ultimately, for a business to sustain, you've also got to get that trust factor going, and that's why you've got to equally invest in the other aspects of marketing rather than just paid ads.
I think CAC is a major challenge. I
For
mean,
every business in the world.
edtech, being a edtech founder, I get it. Like, actually, as you said, like for any business whatsoever,
Yes.
people are trying to optimize ads. I think we'll touch on that more in deep moving forward. Um, I'm very curious about your previous stint with Josh Talks, or should I say Josh Talks?
Joe stocks.
Josh Talks. Okay. So how was the Josh there? What is that all about? Because that was also in this space of like media side of things. I think you also gave some talks.
That's essentially that was my bachelor's in social media, and I spent almost 5 years over there, really understanding the nitty gritties of content creation and editing and social media growth. In fact, when I started off over there, I was probably the third or fourth team member, and then we grew the team to over 100 people. We grew our social media presence just on YouTube. If you just take YouTube, for example, we grew from 23,000 subscribers on one channel to about today, where we're at 25 million subscribers across 12 languages and different sort of channels. It was very interesting for me because uh, at the face of it, it sounds very similar to what you would see on a TED Talks, right? But the nitty gritties of it are very different. What they're trying to achieve as a goal is very different. I got insane exposure over there, not just in social media content and what my day-to-day work was, but also just in terms of building a company, because you are one of the first four people and then you're basically a part of everything going forward as well. So that taught me a lot about building businesses, starting new business, growing revenue, letting go of people, uh, avoiding loyalty, a lot of things. I think it was one of the
That's like
best.
a crash course on entrepreneurship for you
Yes,
altogether.
absolutely. Yes, that's a great way to put it. That was my crash course in entrepreneurship, and I've tried to get in a lot of the learnings that I've had over there to Video.ai as well.
Interesting. I'm pretty sure like your team of Josh Talks will really like what you're saying. I remember also reaching out to you. I think the last time we spoke, you were in Head Out,
Yes.
and I was trying to ask you like, "Yaar Vedant, referral de, job dila de," and then I realized like you moved off to Josh Talks. You also recorded some content that time. You were part of some talks and
Yeah,
speeches.
yeah. I was hosting a lot of events across like
Okay,
India, Nepal.
those were
Bangladesh.
for the company itself.
Yes.
Talking about video, I would like to take a step back and also understand like what made you think of the name video itself. Was it like just the
Yeah.
connection of video,
Yes.
and you didn't get a domain or something for video? That's why.
No, we didn't want to go with VD. We didn't want to go with the right spelling, and that was very clear. You got to have some twist to the name, honestly. And it was, if you think about it, my co-founder's the AI guy, and I'm the video guy, and we were like, "Hey, Video.ai is as good a name as it gets." So we just started off with that. Honestly, didn't put in a lot of thought at that point of time as to what the name should be, because our goal was to get money into the bank and prove that we've built something meaningful. So thinking about the name was probably the last thing on our mind, but we are actually planning to do a rebrand of the business and the name to really reflect what we've built and what we want to become over the course of the next couple of decades. And so that's in the works.
Talking about video's main base, so would you say it's primarily based abroad as far as your
Yeah, most of our
subscribers?
customers are based out of the US.
Okay.
Yes,
Do you like it's the reason why you said like people would prefer rather than to pay an intern rather than
absolutely,
adopt it?
absolutely. In India, people don't pay for software. Most people are running pirated Windows on their computer, so it's very difficult for me to expect them to purchase a random video editor or a social media product that they purchased. Just to give you a comparison, the sign up to paid in the US is 160 times higher than it is in India. So even the economies of
Sahi
scale
mein.
don't work. I'm not joking. It's this is real numbers. So it's just Indians don't pay for software. It's very difficult to get them to pay. And I would say largely developing countries, it's very difficult for them to pay for software, especially niche software like ours. So yeah, this is a software which will almost always have its primary market in developed countries like the US and UK and Australia, all of these countries.
But the tendency of content creation overall, it's increasing in India. Maybe
Globally.
not at a percentage wise. अच्छा, you're saying globally.
Yeah.
India में ज़्यादा growth नहीं दिख रहा है?
in terms of sheer number of people, yes, but again, if you take it as a percentage, there are more percentage of people likely to start creating content in the US as compared to in India. But the volume of people who are creating content in India will be much higher. But again, ultimately, as a business, you got to tread a very fine line between, do I want to optimize for more users or do I want to optimize for revenue? And for a Gen AI product like ours, the cost of serving every free user is also significant.
Right.
So you've got to, really ensure that you are able to give your paid users a good experience, as well as ensure that, okay, countries like India or Indonesia or Philippines are not missing out. So we've created some product hacks around it so that, both parties can experience the value prop. But internally, we know that, okay, a US customer is just much more likely to
Pay for it.
take out their credit card and pay $30-40 a month as compared to an Indian.
But delving out of the mindset aspect also, like if I go and try to buy a subscription for Vidyo, I will look at the dollar value. I'll convert it अपने mind में कि हाँ
Exactly.
ठीक है 80 का rate चल रहा है, and I'll try to convert it.
Yeah.
A lot of brands, they are trying to adopt a dynamic pricing based on country.
Yeah.
Do you think having
We
something
do
of that
that.
sort? Okay, you do that.
We do that. And in spite of that, there's a 160 times difference.
Oh, okay.
So it's crazy. In fact, our Indian pricing is almost 60-70% lower than US pricing.
Okay. And what about content creators overall? Like, is there a difference between how they use technology, not just for editing, but also for other aspects?
Yeah, there's definitely penetration across the full stack. That's also another behavior, fortunately, I'm seeing in India as well, because you are able to brainstorm with a GPT or a Claude and come up with, okay, 10 types of content ideas that I can, talk about what might be potential scripts for it. So in a lot of cases, stuff that you were starting, the starting from zero, the cold start is the most difficult part of, pretty much everything, even content creation. Going from no script to the first draft of the script is actually what takes the most amount of time.
Right.
With tools like GPT, that process has become easier. That's number one. The second part is really making sense of numbers in terms of performance and analytics and data. That's also become easier because of GPT, because it is able to abstract that in a very good way and give it to you in natural language. So definitely seeing tools and products across the spectrum where both Indian creators and creators outside India are, sort of adopting Gen AI tools.
Which LLM are you more reliant on?
We use
among the mainstream?
OpenAI.
OpenAI.
Yeah.
All right. Any challenges you see in that, which would make you consider like maybe Gemini or creating something from scratch with Llama?
We've not seen any challenges so far, but we're constantly experimenting with different models just to see, because again, AI results are always very probabilistic. So to push a new model into production means a lot of testing for us as well. So typically this means that we're trying to constantly try out new models, both like from the OpenAI universe or open source or Google, etc. See customer signals in terms of what is giving the best output, because we rely completely on that, and then see, okay, whether we want to make a switch over or not. So far, that's not happened. But yeah, we continue to do that so that we are also at the top of our game when it comes to what we are offering our customers.
All right. Okay. Now I'll come to a part which is more masaledar, even for me. So I'll just take out my pen and like maybe make some notes on this.
Okay.
Building Vidyo. Okay. I'm pretty sure your team will also enjoy seeing this.
Perfect.
So want to go right back, okay?
Yeah.
Right from the time of idea conception.
Yeah.
And figuring out your initial team. What was that exactly like?
The initial idea was, it's a funny story because Kushagra and I met at an accelerator called Entrepreneur First, and we are the first team. So the way Entrepreneur First works is that you are put into a room with 25 other people and you're supposed to form teams. And if that team doesn't work out, you can break teams and form new teams as well for 3 months until the time that you have to actually pitch to an internal committee for the first round of funding.
Okay.
So Kushagra and I met maybe in the first couple of days. I think we struck a chord in terms of, how we want to work and what sort of company we want to build, and just some core philosophies need to be aligned if you're building a business together. And that really stuck well between the two of us, and we decided to just go after this idea because of, again, his background in AI, my background in video content, and we were like, okay, this is a real problem, we know, we just have to see whether we can solve it meaningfully for people. So we started off with that. The first version of the product was actually the server of the software was Kushagra's computer, which means that if Kushagra's computer is off or it's run out of battery, the product is down, right? That's how scrappy we were when we started off.
That's how frugal you were, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we had to really get validation and we had to get answers from people when it came to should we build before we get any validation from people, or should we just continue to iterate? That was the real question that we're trying to answering. I spent the entire day just DMing creators or getting their numbers from somewhere and asking them to try out the product. The first set of, and by the way, at that point of time, we did not have the money to buy a domain name because we were not funded yet, or and we both of us did not have enough money, right? So we used to literally.
.ai extension domains इतने महंगे नहीं होंगे ना?
But नहीं थे पैसे हमारे पास उस time पर भी. Right? It was maybe $1,000 or something like that when we purchased this domain. So I used to literally send the exposed IP address with the port number so that people could access the software. And I still have Twitter DMs where I've literally sent that IP address with the port number for people to try out the product. And yeah, that's how we started. When we started getting some initial reactions and some positive sentiment around, oh, this is a problem, and at least you are doing something right over here. Of course, it was not a full-fledged product, but there was some sign of, hi, this is going to save me time, or this is something good. Let me know when you come up with a more polished version. I would like to try it. So you start seeing whether you're pushing or whether there's a push or a pull. And there was definitely, a pull from people that they were excited to know what's next. And they used to DM us or send us a WhatsApp message saying, when's the next version coming out? I'm excited to use it.
Okay.
So that's when we were like, okay, this is good.
And उस समय तो कोई alternatives नहीं थे.
There were no alternatives to that. This is pre-chat GPT. There were no AI tools to do this kind of work.
Were you thinking like you would adopt AI so extensively in the entire offering that you?
No. There's a big difference between the post-chat GPT development and pre-chat GPT development, because at that point of time, whatever feature you're offering, you've got to build an entire pipeline for the AI feature to function. Which is again based on a lot of other factors. Now you're able to abstract that to a LLM, and the LLM is able to give more than decent responses for you to at least first roll out your MVP and then see कि अच्छा इस पे क्या fine tune करना है, या फिर if I want to change things or if I want to get a more specialized fine tuned version of another different model, open source, whatever the case may be. That was not the case. So we had built this entire pipeline from scratch at that point of time when we got our first paying customer, and we sort of put the first version of the product out there.
How did that feel, like your first paying customer?
It was fantastic. I remember his name is Coach Jeffrey. He paid us $19.99. It was the 2nd of October, 2022. Yes. He paid us $99. It was phenomenal. Before that, we had not even put a paywall because we were not sure if people will pay or not. And we were like, ultimately, we are headed towards a point where paywall dalna hi hoga, because that's the ultimate test. People taking out the credit card for your product is the ultimate test, right? Everything else is they'll give you compliments, they'll be like, this is good, or they'll give you bad feedback. But if somebody is paying money for your product, that means that you have hit something good. Like there's some value which can be quantified in terms of money. So that was phenomenal. I think before that, one of the things that also happened was I got on one of our first team members and on board, and so Saurabh came onto the team, and he was also doing another job, and I told him that this happened, and we just got our first tranche of funding, which is 40 lakh rupees at that point in time. And I was like, we don't know what's going to happen, but we have this 40 lakh rupees, and there is something that's going to happen over here. And then he also joined the ship. So at that point in time, it was him looking at the front end, Kushagra looking at the back end and the AI, and me doing like everything else in terms of marketing, finance, etc., to the team now, which has evolved to about 20 people.
Got it. This October 22, that was basically then pre-chat GPT.
Pre-chat GPT, yes.
So at that point of time, you were looking at yourselves as just an other video editor, probably with a more of a ease of use and
Absolutely.
All right. And when GPT came into the picture, then you guys were immediately able to see that, okay, this is something that you can directly adopt.
Absolutely. No, the moment, of course, GPT changed things for everyone. Like there was the S curve for mobile, like mobile was the new thing, and now mobile has reached that point where it started to plateau again in terms of S curve, and AI is now starting at that point. So the moment it was launched, of course, it took us some time to wrap our heads around what it is and what the capabilities are, but it became very, very clear that this is going to change everything, not just in terms of our software, but also how people use software, how people perceive software, and how the future of software and generally work is going to transform because of the abilities of something like a GPT. And yeah, that set off a lot of things in motion for us as well. And we were able to imagine building much faster and much better because of using tools like that.
Okay. This was the initial part. Moving forward with video, gaining newer customers, how did you work that around?
It might sound like a bit of a brag, but we didn't have to do any effort to get our customers. They all found us, they all talked about us, and that's still like very similar to Sharpener, where, like you said, most of your momentum in terms of marketing is organic. Like people love the product, so they talk about it, and
So
then they
ads
end
nahi
up
chalana
discovering
pada.
you. We did not run ads for until we almost hit $1.5 million in ARR. We did not run any ads. Like we
Okay.
absolutely did zero spends in ads. There were influencers talking about us. There were podcasts talking about us. HubSpot is talking about us. The biggest digital marketing podcasts in the world are talking about us. And people just came organically, experienced the product, took out their credit card.
That's crazy.
And that's really how we grew to about $1.5 million in ARR in the first 12 months itself, right? It was absolutely zero marketing spend. In fact, we were at a place where we were struggling to keep up with the kind of traffic and we were getting, because our servers and our infrastructure was not capable of handling thousands of users every single day.
Were you getting a lot of free users at that point of time?
Both free and paid.
क्योंकि अगर पेड बहुत ज़्यादा आ जाते then तो you would have the money in bank.
But money in bank doesn't necessarily reflect the infrastructure that you built. Like so far, you are building for hundreds of users or tens of users. At one point of time, I remember when we had just started out, my goal was to get 300 people to sign up in a month to use the product. I can confidently tell you that since the time we started this podcast, we've had more than 300 people sign up on the product. So that requires a different infrastructure to be able to cater to these people and things, sort of working in a different way. A bigger team, better backend, better services, reliability, etc. Again, because you're being very scrappy when you're starting out with a one-person backend team and then scaling to 5-member team. So that journey was the next part of it, which took up most of our bandwidth as we were scaling from $1 to $2 million.
You spoke about your initial funding, 40 lakh rupees. This was way back in 2022 itself, right?
This was 2021 actually.
Starting
December
में
2021.
Starting में क्या सबसे बड़ा need लगा था? Like, why did you feel that you have to raise this and not like?
Hey, honestly, I'll be honest. I didn't have any money in my bank, and I didn't have a job, and obviously I had my kharche. So it was very difficult for me to be able to imagine starting this without external capital. And one of the reasons was also that building technology generally means you need to add engineers at one point or time or the other, because that's your core play. And engineers are expensive. Compute is expensive, and which is why we felt that funding was the best route for us, which obviously will not translate the same way into lots of types of other businesses as well. But I feel that in a technology company, if you have money, it just helps you build faster, higher, better, because ultimately your product is a function of the quality of code that people are shipping out, and that means you need talented engineers, you need good infrastructure, and all that costs money.
So the AI wave basically helped you.
Absolutely. We wouldn't be here without GPT and Sam Altman and the entire team.
All right. One thing I like to ask founders is whenever they look out for investors, कुछ लोग होते हैं जो कि बहुत picky होते हैं, like this is the kind of investor I want, etc., etc. And some people are just hat in hand, honest to God, that I just need cash and your support. That's pretty much it. What kind of an investor were you seeking out
At that point of time or right now?
at that point of time?
At that point of time, it was just give us the cash. It was really as simple as that. Because again, it comes back to the cold start problem. Like you have to start somewhere, and at that point of time, even somebody who was putting in an angel check of a 2 to 3 lakh rupees, it was like this person is putting 3 lakh rupees of their personal money into a business that's not even been validated yet. That's crazy. Like that means that they have an immense amount of trust in me and my co-founder and our abilities. So of course that comes with a little bit of pressure, but us time par you are just looking for money in the bank. Of course that's changed a lot for us since then. Not burning money is the best luxury that a founder can have, of course, and that gives you the liberty to really think about the long term. That gives you the liberty to be able to choose what kind of partners and investors you have on board. And luckily, we are at that place where we can, choose which partner we want and which partner we don't want.
Got it. And you had a very relatively larger round later on, right? I remember reading that around 10, 11 investors, almost over $1 million in funding.
Yes. At that point in time, the next round of funding was $1 million. Yes.
Right. Were you eyeing such a high raise?
एक चीज जो माइंड में था was that कि यार 1 million तो कर ही लेते हैं, like it sounds like a good number. Initially we had commits to the tune of about 600-700k 750k, and like that would have mostly done it, but then we were like यार चलो round off कर ही लेते हैं. So in retrospect that was a good idea. In fact, like what I've learned over the last 3 years is that never say no to money. Having said no to money twice, and sort of thinking कि अरे यार कर ही देना चाहिए था उस time पे, yes, but and from good investors also, coming to that, like you if you've got a good offer from good investors, you shouldn't be saying no. And I've said that a couple of times, and now I look back at it and I'm like कि नहीं यार नहीं करना चाहिए था. But yeah, that was a decent route, and we felt that it'll sort of at least give us the runway for the next couple of years to be able to build the product in peace and not have to worry every single night about पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे या फिर payroll कैसे meet करोगे. And again, at that point of time, we weren't generating the kind of revenues that we are doing today. So all of those things were yet to sort of click in.
In that case, 2 quick questions on this. First would be, if you had to take back a major decision in building Vidyo, what would it be?
Yeah, we said no to a tier A investor, one of the best in the world. In the world, I say that. They gave us an offer and we said no. I would have not done that. I would have definitely taken it. It was a $4 million check. I should have taken it.
उस समय क्या mindset था? Why did you say no?
We thought that was at the peak of the AI wave. So we thought we were definitely more valuable.
Okay.
Things were playing out. People were making bets. We should have just taken that bet. So उस time पे we thought कि only 4. No, we want more. Even though we had no idea of what we were going to do with that money, to be very honest. Again, we wanted a higher number. We didn't know what to do with that. And so we should have just said yes to that and taken that. We didn't do that.
Right. On the flip
But
side,
on the other side, sorry to cut you off, but on the other side, not taking that money or not having that money in the bank has taught me another way of doing business, which is, just relying on the money that you're making as a company and using that. And of course, it can be a little more challenging at times, but I think it's more
Sustainable
fulfilling.
and
to
sustainable
me.
also.
Yeah, it makes you make some hard decisions. Whereas if you've got that much of money in the bank account, then you're just like, हाँ ठीक है, पैसे उड़े, etc., etc. So I think that was a bad decision, but also a good decision, and it's kept us closer to our roots of not just building for the sake of building, but actually making money from what we're building as well.
All right. Okay. Lots of notes for me to take note. On the flip side, but if I ask you, what is one decision which you would definitely take again? Some major decision.
I would have the same team into 3. I think that we got a phenomenal team over here, but unfortunately, they can only do so much. I would want to clone everybody and have like a 3x team working.
What is one part of the team culture that you find is helping the team be more productive?
A lot of startups say they are flat. They're not. In terms of structure, in terms of organization, we are very, very flat. Everybody knows what they are up to. There is no micromanaging. There's no meetings. I hate meetings personally. So I do not encourage anybody to do long ass meetings where everybody's just sitting and not doing anything productive. We're an engineering focused or a technology company. Most of the time for anybody in the company should either be spent on coding or on selling what's been coded. There's nothing else. Like there's no time for meetings. There's a lot of liberty in terms of how you want to plan, how you want to function, what kind of what hours you have, what days you want to come in, when you want to take a leave. We don't have a leave policy either, because again, the good part is, and this sounds good when you're a 20-member team. I know it will not scale probably to a 200-member team,
Right.
but as long as we're a 20, 30, 40 small team, I would reap all of these benefits as a team. One more thing. We took our team to one of the best offsites that I have ever heard of, to Thailand, when we hit $1 million in ARR. So the entire team flew to Thailand and we had a blast for 4 days. And we are hoping to do that as we hit more substantial revenue milestones. So I think that's definitely a positive as well. Like if you're making money because of the team, then the first place where it should be spent is on the team.
All right. Your team would love to know that, including the people I'm seeing right
they
now.
can say, I can't say. I can just tell you what I feel.
All right. What about your biggest sign up, like in terms of the content creator? Any famous name you would like to take?
There are lots of people. I don't think I can single any one or two of them out, but there are lots of people with millions of subscribers who've signed up, or somebody from the team has signed up and used the
किसी को
product. Yes.
नाराज नहीं करना चाहते.
You got the Shark Tank team, like the US Shark Tank team.
But I saw Barbara,
Kevin O'Leary, and all of these people, their teams use our product.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I would say they are one of the biggest folks.
Amazing.
Damon John, their team also used the product. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Let's talk about challenges. I think every founder is known more through their challenges than through the successful rides that are happening.
Yeah.
Um, challenge of your business overall, the content creation, editing space, etc.
The two challenges for our business that come to mind, and this is fresh from all the investor conversations I've been having. The first challenge is that uh, this is a crowded space. There are lots of people doing a lot of innovative things over here, and because of again GPT, because as much as it helped us, it's lowered the barrier to create software even further. Like
At
LLMs.
your scale, sorry, interrupting. At your scale, does moat matter?
No, I still don't think. I think we are starting to see the beginnings of some kind of moat that we'll build. But even at our scale,
I think I
our moat
remembered.
is execution. There's no other moat. There's
I
only
remember seeing
execution.
one of your videos in which you said that at this stage, with so much of adoption in technology, moat, the factor of moat is more and more difficult to justify.
Yes, it is. It is because the barrier to entry to create software has just become so low that a guy with access to Claude can build out a fully working software in less than a few hours and put it out live for people and tweet about it and earn money from it. Like that's how easy it's become to create software. So, like you said, like either you're building really, really good and meaningful software, which is solving real problems for people, or you are able to just ship really fast and attract more people. Like there is no other moat for a business like ours right now. Eventually there'll be multiple moats that will form in terms of the data that we have access to for people, or the kind of outcomes we've driven for them, or just the workflows that we've created for them that they don't want to go out of. But right now the only mode that we have is execution. There's nothing else.
Got it. Okay. So sorry I interrupted you that time. You were talking about two challenges that you faced.
Two challenges that we face as a business right now. The first is just fierce competition in the space. This space is evolving really fast. Like just video content, AI video content, video editing and content creation, like we just spoke about. It's been growing at a really, really fast pace. The level of innovation that's happening across the world is phenomenal. And that means that it becomes more and more difficult for your business or your first solution to stand out in a crowd of so many softwares. So one of the challenges that we face and we will continue to face is to build our differentiability in terms of what we bring to the table with our software that other people are not able to do. That's number one. The second is, of course, just generally customer churn. With the AI product, churn is typically on the higher side because a lot of the systems that are working are probabilistic rather than, one in, one out, right? There can be a lot of types of outcomes. And a lot of times, let's say a video that you put in may not have the best types of output because the AI is not able to process that in the best manner, or it's not able to give the kind of output that you were expecting, or this idea of AI aise chalega was there in your mind, and that's why it didn't work out. So people churn out.
But for paid users also, that's
Absolutely.
people must be trying a free product
People
first.
try out the product, they use it, and then they're like, okay, this is not working out for me. Or maybe just posting social media content is not helping out my business. There are other channels that are working, so that means that they churn out. Or sometimes they run into some tech issues or bugs or difficulties that become really problematic for them, and then they churn out. So churn is a constant battle for any SaaS tool, especially a prosumer one like ours, where your smaller ticket sizes, thus higher churn. And the second is, of course, the competition and the space itself and the way it's growing.
The way you mentioned about churn, so the success of your product, of course, now that I think about it, it's quite obvious. The success of your product also is affected by their success in their social media handles.
Yes.
How was the TikTok ban like? Did it affect you guys? That was not so much in the broad market, but primarily in the Indian market.
No, in the Indian market, it didn't affect us. It was way before we started also, and at the same time, in the US, it's not. All over the world, TikTok's working. So yeah, it didn't really affect us a lot.
Got it. And what about microblogging as a space, like with Koo shutting down, Twitter also being
Again, all
somewhat
Indian developments, they
Twitter,
don't impact
what about
us.
it?
In fact, I've seen like after the Twitter change of hands, we've seen more posts go to Twitter than they were going out before. And it's just because of the buzz around the platform has increased, and it's because, again, a function of how Elon markets the platform and how he claims it to be the town square of the world, etc., etc. It's just increased. And social media time spent is just increasing for every platform out there in the world, especially with short videos, and every platform introducing short videos and stories and whatnot, just in order to increase time and deliver more ads. And that will continue to be the case throughout the world, throughout every geography. People are going to spend more time on social media platforms.
Okay. So the lack of patience in people to watch long form content is actually helping your business a lot.
Absolutely, it is.
Interesting. All right. What are your thoughts on deepfakes and misinformation?
Yeah, it's going to evolve, and I think our internal mind filters will come up with ways to differentiate between what's fake and what's real. Like, for example, very interestingly, I was ordering from a restaurant on Swiggy the other day, and I could distinctly see that there were some items, some sandwiches that they are listed jahan par it was a AI generated image of a mushroom cheese sandwich, and I could see it and I could tell it. But then on the other part, it got me thinking that if there's a guy operating a restaurant and he is using a Mid Journey or a Dali to create these images of mushroom cheese sandwich and chicken sandwich and whatnot and putting it out there, it means that it has gone mainstream. So with deep fakes, misinformation, etc., my general attitude or my way of thinking is that people will adapt. There will obviously be efforts by people to use the deep fakes as a tool for terror or whatever the case may be, but that's the case with everything. Like, you won't stop driving cars because there are accidents. It's just a byproduct of having cars as a technology, and I think the same thing will apply to AI as well.
Got you. And recently, like my team was also telling me that a couple of algorithms of social media have changed how they are counting views, how they are checking for duplicates, etc., etc. Not so much affecting video editing per se, but since you guys also look at what can trend, what can not trend, does the change in algorithms also affect you? Do you factor in it in any way?
Yes, we try to. Unfortunately, all social media algorithms are a black box. So there's only so much you can understand and extrapolate in terms of what might perform, what might not perform. So the way we also try to inculcate it in our our own software and its experiences, that we try and personalize your recommendations on your own content and audience rather than relying too much on the algorithm, because the algorithm, nobody knows what's behind the algorithm and nobody knows what will work, which means that we just have to keep improving with the data that we have about your content and keep posting more frequently so that your chances of performing better just go high. And if you ask any creator or any business out there who's excelled in social media, the only reason they've been able to do it is because they were very, very consistent at creating content. There's just nothing else when it comes to social media success. Whether you're a niche creator, whether you're a Mr. Beast, if you've posted consistently over months and over years, there is no way in which the algorithm will not reward you. I've seen that happen for thousands of creators at a personal level, and I know that's the way to grow on social media. Just be very, very consistent.
Right. And talking about using video, do you see that video will be in the future with the advancement in AI and your technology to be specific? Do you see video is more applicable for the content creator himself? Like, will it be that easy to use, or will you still need some a proper video editor to support?
No, absolutely, it'll be that easy to use. I imagine this as almost like a Tinder style interface on your mobile phone in the next couple of years, where the AI is doing all the work of understanding your content, understanding its performance, creating new content pieces for you, and then just showing it up to you on your mobile phone when you can swipe left or swipe right in terms of, this is something that I want to post, this is something I don't want to post. And what you don't want to post, the AI will learn from that and be like, okay, this is the kind of content that Vedant doesn't want to post. What you post, it will post that online for you, get the data, combine that back into the algorithm. So
What
creating
is
content,
working, what is not, everything.
absolutely, creating content will become very, 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 very easy for anybody who actually wants to do it. So
Got it.
barriers to entry will be next to nothing.
Okay. The last segment, I would want to think about how you look at yourself as a founder and more
Okay.
details around that.
Okay.
So let's start with the most interesting thing, I think, is your personal brand.
Okay.
How much of an importance would you give to your building your own personal brand, especially at your stage, now that you have an MVP and everything?
Yeah, it's important. I would be underselling it if I said that personal brands for founders are not important today. They're important in every aspect, not just from a company building perspective, but also from a networking perspective, from meeting new people perspective, because a lot of my time now goes into just meeting new people and getting exposed to new ideas and building my mental model around that. And the networking or the creation of content really helps me do that, because the moment I meet somebody or the moment I meet a potential investor and they're like, okay, I've seen your content on LinkedIn, it works in no other way than anything else, right? For example, Nas Daily says the exact same thing, that I put out content because content helps me reach people who I would not be able to reach otherwise. out there in some country, there is some diplomat who's sitting on the pot in the morning, scrolling through videos, and he sees my video, and then he knows me, and then everything else just falls into place. So ultimately, yes, creating content, creating a personal brand, whether you're a B2B founder, B2C founder, no matter who your audience is, everybody is on social media, which means you need to be on social media, and which means you need to create a social, your personal brand. And even if you're not a founder, the example that I give you, if you're applying for a job, the first thing that they're going to look at is your LinkedIn. And if that's buzzing, it's always a positive intent. If I had the opportunity to select between two equally capable people, and one person is really active on creation and social media, and this is coming from somebody, even if I were not the founder of this particular company or any other company, I would almost always go for the person who's more active on social media than the one who's not.
All right. And realistically, how much of your editing actually happens on video itself, or how much time is saved by actually editing on video itself?
Initially, we started off by not putting my content on through video.ai. Eventually, we realized that that's the best way for me again to sell the product, that we actually use the software. So over time, we brought on most of the editing into video.ai. There are still some parts that we are not able to do again with the current functionality of the software that we are also building, and we will sort of get to over the course of the next few months. Eventually, my goal is that, of course, the entire team and anybody who's creating content within the team or outside the team is using this product. But right now, I'd say about the 70-30 split in terms of the content that's created using video and not using video.
70. Okay, that's a good limit then.
Not ideal. Like, I would want 100% to be there, but of course that'll take some time.
So with time, like, this will become a full blown end-to-end video editor with
An
the reel
end-to-end
suggestion,
social
everything.
media management and creation and analytics platform. So video editor, I would say, would be short selling us. We are going to be building a full stack of social media tools that help you grow your business or your practice online, and everything is automated. And like I said, the only thing that you're thinking about is, okay, what do I talk about more? How do I appeal to my audience more? And everything else is the AI doing the work.
Got it. And you spoke about Shark Tank folks also using the product. I always wondered, what is it? What would be your opinion on Shark Tank as a show? Because most of the Indian crowd, at least, they look at that as the poster boy for investments. So, what is your take on shows like Shark Tank?
I love Shark Tank.
They represent the reality of the investment space.
That's a good question. I wouldn't say that they invest the total reality of the investment space, because there are a lot of other things that you go on. Like, just most people know Shark Tank from TV, of course. That you go, you pitch for 10 minutes, and you get a check. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background. There's due diligence. There's this. There's that. Offers get taken back, etc. And plus, not always do the investors become partners in building your business, because they've got 25,000 other things to do. So almost always it is just a check, and you really need to be looking for partners who can actually help you grow your business from an investor perspective. But yeah, I think just generally Shark Tank is a good primer into how venture capital or just public investing works, and how the mental model is, and it gives you a good idea to think about scalable business models, and कि आप कितने में बेच रहे हो, कितना कमा रहे हो, क्या खर्चे हैं
Types of
आपके,
questions
etc.
and everything.
This helps the general public also start thinking about business and about entrepreneurship. So I think it's a soft push in that direction. And overall, especially, I think Shark Tank US would have had a great role to play in inspiring entrepreneurs in the US to become the community that it has. And I'm sure the same thing will happen in India as well.
Right. I see a better adoption. My family looks at me better when I say I'm an entrepreneur after Shark Tank. Talking about entrepreneurship then, and this will be my last question, Vedant. So, really crucial one for me also personally. If you were to say, like, Kaustubh, agar ek successful entrepreneur banna hai, these are the things that you should keep in mind. What would you list down as the primarily, say, 2-3 things?
Few things that you need to keep in mind if you want to become a successful entrepreneur. First of all, I do not categorize myself as a successful entrepreneur at all. So take this with a pinch of salt. I'm just telling you from my experience. Then the first thing would be, you have to have the balls to take risks, and you have to be okay with that risk going to shit. So you have to be okay with the fact that everything that you worked for the last few years can tomorrow just turn to dust and it's nothing, and you have to be willing to start over again, right? So you need to have that risk-taking ability for sure, else it will become very difficult. The second thing is, you have to be obsessed with your customers. I think every successful entrepreneur in the world have been super obsessed with their customers, and when I say obsessed with your customers, I mean down to the detail at which, okay, in our case, if it is taking them 35 clicks to complete something, can we help them do that in 3 clicks? So you're counting the number of clicks sitting beside them on their computer. So that's the level of obsession I'm talking about in terms of their work or in terms of how they're looking at your software, what they're doing things. So that's number two. Number three is you got to become smarter with managing money, and not a lot of people talk about money management as a part of entrepreneurship, but I think almost inevitably it comes down to that. This is a lesson I have learned over the last almost 6 months of how we can manage money better as a company, because until then, because we had some funds in the bank, we are not really actively thinking about it. But obviously there came a time where we were not able to do that as well as we should have, and that taught me a lesson about how we should be valuably or effectively managing money. So yes, in that order, actually, you have to be very, very your risk taking ability has to be very high, and you have to be okay with everything falling to absolute crap overnight. That's number one. Number two, be very, very close to your customers, be obsessed with your customers. And the third is understand how money works and how that affects your company, and make money as a company. Very, very important. Sooner or later, you've got to have a solid plan to make money, else it's not a business, and that's why everything again will just break down.
Amazing, Vedant. This was a rock solid masterclass. I wouldn't even call it a podcast. Really helpful for not just me, I guess, but content creators, social media users, how they'll plan to look forth as far as social media is concerned,
Absolutely.
job seekers as far as LinkedIn is concerned, and everyone else that can possibly gain some value.
Awesome.
And I'll be using Video to edit this product. So I think podcast, then I also think you should give it a certain shot if you're not already using it. And
Yes.
Vedant, thanks a lot for your time.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all of that. See you.